Okay, this is it.
All right.
Oh man, that looks awesome.
Ooh, BLT. Nice.
Sweet.
Chorizo hash. Yes,
Boom.
thank you. There you go. See? Part one for you.
This looks amazing. Part one.
That's me, Trent McClellan, stand-up comedian and actor. This is my show, but let's meet our guests. This is Kelly Hrudey, former National Hockey League goaltender and currently a broadcaster on Hockey Night in Canada. And this is Tommy Wheeldon Jr., general manager and head coach of Cavalry FC. That's a soccer team. They just won the championship, by the way.
I wanted to ask you guys this. So as a stand-up comedian, for a long time, I'm better at it now. But for a long time, if I didn't have a good show, which was rare, the mic would break or something.
Somebody else's fault.
Yeah, someone else, a drunk person in the front row. But I had my self-worth wrapped so much up in the performance of the show that I would be depressed for like a day or two afterwards. And I always found the good shows never stayed with me as long as the bad shows stayed. The bad shows would stay with me for days and days. If I had a great show, it was like, well, that's what I was supposed to do. Who cares? But a bad show was, oh man, like I don't know if I should be doing this anymore. And you start second guessing stuff. I don't know if it's the same for you when you were a goalie, obviously, or for you when you played or coaching. But for me, it was a long time to separate those two things, like me the person and me the performer. Very different.
Okay, so I have two answers for that, because when I was a player, I was actually, I think, quite good at letting it go because I had to, because we played 80 games or 82 games, or one year I think we played 84 games with some neutral site games. And so as a goalie, I think I was quite good. I could be mad, like I said, till 3 or 4 in the morning, but then next day I wake up and I'm ready to go again.
Really?
As a broadcaster, I think I've been not so good at letting it go. And in particular, early on, because when I just worked on Hockey Night in Canada, I worked once a week until the playoffs, and then I'd get it more of a rhythm. So if you have a bad Saturday in November, well, you have a week to think about it.
Yeah.
And so I would do a bad job of it. Now, I've got a story, though, what the pandemic kind of helped me with. So I was going through all this mental stuff, and I wasn't doing great. And one of the things I had to do was be kinder to myself. And so I was learning about that and working on that. So one day, Rick Ball and I are calling a Flames game, and we have to do this hit that goes to the sports replay show after. And so it's a tape thing. And so my producer, 3, 2, 1, go. And I was terrible in the hit. I was terrible. And I was wondering if the producer is going to say, we'll do it again.
Right.
Because it's going to run all night. In the sports highlight show, it's going to go over and over and over. And I found it was really important for me to say, no, that's going to air. And I got in my truck and I was super excited because I was like, that's good. Like, you can be a failure. Like, you can fail. And it can go all night and you're okay with it. So that was a big step for me to learn to do that. And every once in a while, I still feel like that's good for me because, you're always trying to be a perfectionist, and that's a bad way to live because you can't, right? Yeah, you got to fail a lot.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So, if I may dig in, because a goalkeeper, I think, is one of the toughest positions in any sport that plays with one, because you're one error away from the game being decided. Yeah. So, was it the volume of the games that allowed you to be, less hang on? Because for me, I'm like you now as a broadcaster, Saturday to Saturday kind of thing. So you have those longer days in between.
Right.
Whereas for you, was it because the games came quite frequently, you're already in that habit?
That's what it was. It was the frequency of the games. So let's just say Tuesday we're at home. I play lousy. We lose, but Wednesday we're in a different city. And you're playing again, and you just have to learn how to. I used to take a game as 5-minute segments, so I never looked at it as a 60-minute game, just 5-minute games. And I broke every single period down in 5-minute segments because I convinced myself I could be perfect for 5 minutes. That's all I had to do.
That's a neat way of looking at it.
Right? I didn't have to be perfect for 60 minutes because that's too daunting. But I can be really good for 5 minutes.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I find the difference with professional comedians and amateur comedians is a professional comedian can start shaky and turn it around.
Yes.
Whereas an amateur comedian's like, whoa, that joke didn't work. They're not liking me. Oh, it's all falling apart. Whereas a pro can go, oh, the next one will get them.
Right.
Oh, the next bit will get them. Oh, you know what? They're a little tired. Like you don't beat yourself up immediately if stuff's not going your way. But that's a mental fortitude and a mental switch, right? But early comedians, they just think like, oh, this crowd's not digging me. And then and then once an audience senses your lack of confidence, you're done. It's over. It's so bad.
You got to get over your mistakes in a real hurry. I had a really funny moment years ago. In fact, it was the first year that the Vegas Golden Knights came into the league. So I know their name, right? So Rick Ball and I are calling a game, and in the first period, about 4 minutes in, I called them the Vegas Golden Nuts. And that was the reaction. Then I started laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. I pushed my cough button, so in the truck they wouldn't hear me laughing. And I had my cough button down for, honestly, like 7 minutes. And now Rick's getting mad at me because I'm not calling the game anymore. I couldn't stop laughing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, the feedback I had on social media was hilarious, right?
The golden
nuts.
It's wild. The other thing too for you is like, that's a great idea to like, if you feel like you failed or didn't deliver, that thing goes to air. You realize that it's not fatal, right?
That's right.
That you get up the next day and you get on with life, but.
I didn't get fired.
Exactly. You still had your job, the sun rose, your wife's still there, you know what I mean? Like it's not this fatal thing that we all perceive it to be, but that's a conversation in your own head that like you have to switch gears and go like, dude, it's okay. We have the next day, we go again, right? So, right.
To your point, it's actually more and more now, as I've gone, now this is what, my 5th year as a professional head coach and general manager. I've actually embraced it more and more because every weekend, your week's work or your month's work is all defined whether you win or lose on the weekend.
Right.
So everyone thinks, great coach because you won 3 back-to-back. You lose a game and suddenly go, coach is rubbish. It's always the coach's fault or the plan or all the work you've done that didn't get the best out of the 90 minutes. But for me, actually, it helps build resilience. I think. So it's allowed me now actually to be a better parent. So I see my soon-to-be 14-year-old son going through it, my 2 older ones, and I talk all the time about things they're learning in their jobs, the lessons if they're not having a good day, it sets them up for the better days. This is life, the roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly.
Build resilience.
My big thing too is that my fiance and I talk about this all the time. I used to suffer a lot leading up to a big show because I would overthink, like I got this show coming up, I gotta crush it, I gotta deliver. And then of course you do it and 95% of the time it went well and it was great. I go, yeah, but the tax I had to pay mentally and emotionally to get to that moment, I go, I can't continue to do that and live that way. And so the big goal for me over the last couple of years has been to like, how can I suffer less? If I'm gonna say yes to it, if I'm gonna say yes to the gig or the show or the hosting opportunity, how do you do it and not suffer leading up to it?
So do you see somebody to help with that?
I see a therapist about it, and she puts things in perspective. I don't know how people don't go to therapy. Like to me, like I don't know how you get by.
Yeah,
I really don't.
And I'm struggling with the same thing that to go to air some nights is just next to murder. Like it's impossible to go to air, and it shouldn't, right? Like I've been doing it for so long, but my brain's telling me something that it's not truthful, but it seems true. And so I have all these irrational thoughts. But most times I can get through it like really easily. But to go to air is just so hard sometimes. But
why is that, Kelly? Because you played at a very high level. Is it because all your life has been about performing?
It is that, and my brain is it asks me rational questions. And then they turn irrational. My thoughts turn. So my rational questions would be, when I was a player, is how much longer can I do it? All these things those are normal questions, right, for an athlete or a comedian, or how much longer can I do this? And then that became a little bit overwhelming, and I was able to see somebody to help me understand that, and that episode only lasted a few months for me, like
Right.
less than a year. And then in the summer of 2019, those thoughts started coming back again. And they're all the same thing. Like, I think I was entering my 20th year or something on Hockey Night in Canada, which is a long time. How much longer can you do it? You better be perfect. All these things, which are ridiculous. And then it went to, if you're not perfect, you're going to get fired, all this kind of stuff. So I had to see somebody. I knew it. And that's the only problem. I waited too long because I should have gone earlier. Because why suffer for, like, I was just suffering for, weeks or years. And it's
Good on you.
Oh, yeah.
Good on you.
And I loved it. I mean, I loved it. Just opening up. And it was really cool. And I can't speak for your situation, but for the longest time, it was really hard. And then after a while, because I was going weekly for months and months and months, I'd just go in there and sit and we wouldn't even talk about stuff because I wasn't going through anything. I just liked the comfort of being in that room. And we'd talk for like 20 minutes, half an hour, and I'd go, okay, see you next week. Right? It's really great.
A buddy of mine gave me a book called The Untethered Soul. I don't know if you've ever read it. So it's about mindfulness and those things. So that was my doorway into there's a different way of looking at the world. And I realized once I went to therapy, traced a lot of it back to my grandparents raised me, and I didn't have answers from my grandparents about why my biological parents did what they did. So I had all this anger and resentment that I had built up inside, and I was like, oh, that's why this is all coming out in these different ways. And this was a question that a therapist asked me that changed my life. So I always thought biological parents weren't there for me. I'm owed answers. There's entitlement there. There's like, I deserve to know what happened and get their side of things, and they should come to me. And this therapist listened to me for a bit and said, yeah, no, I can see why you would feel that way. But what are you going to do if they don't?
Oh, wow.
And I went,
wow.
Because anyone I'd ever shared that story with had always validated my sense of wanting those answers. They're like, you know what, Trent, you're right, you do deserve to know. This therapist went, what if it never happens? Now you have a choice. Like, how do you want to live your life? How do you want to walk through your days? And I was like, oh man, like I never ever had someone pose that to me before.
I had something similar when I was seeing my person. And it was like, well, what happens if they fire me? He goes, well, let's talk about what happens if they fire you. And so it actually made sense to me, right? Like, well, life will go on.
Still got your kids, your grandkids.
Right? But he also taught me something that I had never, ever considered. And I don't know if you guys are in that appreciation mode or like, I really appreciate what we've all done. And he said this line, I actually carry a cue card with me everywhere I go. And I look at it if I'm having a tough day. And the last line is, he said, you deserve this success. I'd never considered that before, right? I never thought that I deserved it.
Why not you? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was really cool. It's a good line.
It is, because I think in this generation, well, actually there's lots that have that imposter syndrome where you don't feel that you deserve what you have.
Right.
Yet you're working at so hard to get to it, you don't appreciate it. So like you guys, it was through the pandemic that something triggered for me, and I've gone through university. I'd done a little bit of psychology, and I always liked to know how people think, why people think, what affects their behaviors. And a mentor of mine saying, no, what is coaching? And all these coaches, we came out with answers here, there, and everywhere. And it was affecting behavior to improve performance. That's essentially coaching. If I'm the coach, who's coaching the coach? So I reached out to a mental performance coach, and she still works with me and the team to this day. So I bring her in now with our cultural influencers and the leaders and the captains of the team. Because same thing, we actually discuss things, and it's probably now, over this last season, been the most honest two-way leadership I think I've ever had as a human being, as a coach.
Right.
Imagine that, men talking about how they're feeling.
Crazy.
Weird.
Right.
What a weird concept. I don't know if that's going to work, Tommy. No, that's amazing.
Good luck with
It's
how you do
amazing.
that, right?
How are you as a person? As opposed to like, let's just get to it.
Right.
Yeah, and Leon, my right-hand man, we've worked together for, almost 20 years now going on. And he's always the one that will be just that voice in my ear to say, well, have you asked them how they're doing? Before we even talk about they're not running back, they're not tracking back, they're not making this pass, that play.
Right.
Let's just see how they're doing. And we found so much unwrapping by asking that. And if there's anything we can ever say, so anytime we do public speaking or talks like this, always ask people how they're doing because we don't know what they're going through.
And did you find that they were honest early on, or were they skeptical maybe that, what's the coach, is he going to try and expose me and then maybe get rid of me?
So if I say to you, Kelly, how are you, Kelly? What's your first response naturally?
If I didn't really, if we weren't working together, it'd be a normal response. I'd go, oh, that's very nice. I'm doing great, thank you.
And the players are very similar. It's a superficial, hey, how you doing? It's like, I'm good, thanks. So then we say, no, like literally, I've noticed your body language there and something doesn't seem to be right. You care to share with me so I can understand and help you? And then that's how we follow it in. But always, players will go, no, I'm okay. Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Right.
And then you have to give them a couple of things. Well, here's what I'm noticing on the data. Here's what I'm noticing in physically with my eyes. Is there anything that I'm not understanding or don't know about that you can tell me? And if it's something you don't want me to know, no problem. But just think you don't seem your normal self.
Right. That's interesting because a therapist said to me once that trust in a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship, family member, whatever, trust is not just about, you trust that person's never going to hurt you and those things, but also that if you give them the truth, how are they going to receive it? Like that level of trust of like, if I tell Kelly what I really think, he's going to take it in a way that we can have a productive conversation. But if you don't trust that, or you feel there's going to be some kind of punishment afterwards, or it's going to go bad, there's no trust there, right? And so I guess that's what you're kind of speaking to as well. It's like that, coach does have my back. He is looking out for my best interest. It's not just about, now there's less playing time because I revealed I'm going through this situation, right?
Because some athletes would think that for sure. That if I reveal too much, it might be used against me. But I think that's a good thing about having those conversations and the way you're doing it, Tommy, is that once they understand that, this is trustworthy and nothing bad is going to happen to you if you share with me. Your playing time is not going to be decreased. You're not going to get traded or whatever.
Equity is important, no matter if it's you're buying a house and you're forever putting equity into it, or it's a relationship. You need to build time. So the longer you have players, the more trust you can push the envelope a little bit more. But new players are the toughest one. You've got to really take your time to get to know them. And that's how the trust, but it's all about equity, putting it in there.
The tough thing for you though is you're also trying to win games, right? Like this is a business. So you can be all about the person and the individual and what's best for them. But at the end of the day, at some point you gotta go, I gotta make a call. Like that guy either can't continue to play or can't stay. Like how do you make those decisions where you feel like, hey, this is not a fit anymore and we've done all we can do? Like how do you navigate that?
And that's probably the hardest part of the job is, and an old mentor of mine, I worked with him with Canada U17, Sean Flem, and he said about being Mr. 51%. He said, so make sure you got a good staff because then you have to make the final decision, like any CEO, right? So unfortunately, I built a good staff that probably know a lot more than I do about many things. So I'm not the smartest person in the room when we have a discussion. And they'll all say, well, I think this player should do it, and I think we could go here. But we'll have a war room type discussion. And then I'll make the decision. I say, listen, guys, and some of the times I'll go, I like that idea, let's go with that. And other times I'll say, but my gut tells me this, and I'm going to go with it. And if it works, you say, my gut worked. If it doesn't, I say, listen, guys, you were right. But if you own up to that and have that 100% transparency, you can make those decisions.
How do you guys both feel with social media? And like you're in a different position because you have players that you have to manage, and maybe social media isn't kind to them, and maybe that's affecting their play. Like, do you say like you don't go on social media, don't read what people say, or do you encourage it? I don't know. Like that's a hard one, right?
Yeah, we got a media team which is good, and they're learning the process, especially with this generation, with our job, what to say, what you can't, and there's a league policy. But you also know that you've got these young players that have their own school of thought, and they'll go out there and chime in on this or get on that.
Do you care what people say about you on social media?
I don't as much as I used to. I used to take it personal. And I remember when we had 2 new cast members join 22 Minutes last year, 2 years ago. The first thing I said to them was like, this is going to be, you put your head down, you just go at it. try not to read the comments on social media because they're going to compare you to former cast members. They're going to compare you to when the show used to be good and what's this new person doing? And if you've already had a rough week at work where maybe you weren't in a whole lot of sketches and didn't get a lot of screen time, and then you open up Twitter and the wolves have come to the door, and you're away from home, like you're living in Halifax, you don't have your social network there, like all those things create the perfect storm, and people can just get lost. They lose their confidence. They're like, maybe I shouldn't be here, and that imposter syndrome kicks in. And so I always tell them, like, you're going to want to scroll down, and I'm telling you, they'll be all great comments, but if you fish long enough, you're going to get a shark. It's like, unreal, great sketch, that was amazing. Bring back the old cast. Like, so you want to throw your phone in the garbage, but it's like, just try not to do it. We're all human. We want feedback, and our job requires that we get, we get laughter and get reaction from people, but that can be death to you for a performer.
Well, I asked that question because I'm curious how people, feel about social media, because I see it affect different people in different ways. I know that I've chosen to go a different path with social media. So basically, I do 3 things on social media. I talk about the dinner I have by myself somewhere on the road, and I share the dinner. I talk about my wife and I golfing. I'll show pictures from where we've golfed, or mental health, and that's it. The only 3 things. I don't talk about my profession. I don't talk about hockey. I just
don't chime in on it. No,
I don't. But I get a lot of feedback from a Saturday night hockey night broadcast, or I don't get as much from Flames fans, but and so. There's a lot of hurtful things that are said. Now, the good thing is, I think I have a little bit of experience from playing goal, because you're a target, right? Yeah. So, when you get booed at home for a long time, you get pretty thick skin. At home. That's not a school I would recommend going to, but when you become public enemy as a goalie, you learn how to handle it, right?
It's interesting. I had read a great quote as I was coming up through my coaching one is, what other people think of me is none of my opinion.
Yeah, there you go.
So true.
Yeah,
it's so true.
It's none of my business.
Yeah,
right. It isn't.
It isn't. So what they think of me, they don't know me. They don't. Haven't sat around the table with me, or know what I do with my family and how I spend my quality time. They're judging me on what their perception is. So what they think of me, none of my business.
Do you feel too that, like, I feel like there's a window in which people root for you, and then it's almost like fruit where it rots on the vine, 100%. Where it's like, great to see you get the job, Kelly, you're doing great, but then after a while, if you keep putting that stuff out there, they go, all right, that's enough now. And like, it's almost like they turn, and I've seen it happen with people who do real personal posts on social media, like it's a weight loss journey or whatever it may be. People are like, way to go, Carol, that's awesome. And then by year 2, it's like, we get it, Carol, you're fit. Okay, Carol? Carol, you've had abs now for a year and a half. That's enough now, Carol, okay? Like, in a bikini again, and it's like people, 2 likes, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, so people turn, the same people who are your supporters eventually go, all right, we've seen that, that's enough.
Right,
but
I agree.
Why do you think that is?
I think because people want to root for a story. They want to root to see someone on the upward climb. Once you get to a certain part in their head that's a plateau, they're like, well, this is not interesting anymore. Why would I root for this, I see it happen with musicians all the time. Like, Taylor Swift right now, it's like she owns the music world. Right. And then all of a sudden it'll start to shift, like, that's enough, Taylor Swift. She's everywhere, right? And so you can't let your own self-worth be caught up in that weather system of whatever that is out there in social media world that, will be rain, sunshine, whatever. Like, that's why the even mindset of just focusing on the work itself is so important.
Do you think it's envy as well? Like people where they think that, everyone does like to see that underdog story. When you get there, when you stay there, are you surpassing what they feel and then they compare it with their own life? Because I feel that, and this is a talk I have with my kids about Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and all that, you're seeing everyone's best version of themselves. I'm not putting up there, and credit to you to say, like, about mental health, is people don't share their bad days that much. They just say, hey, look at me, new kicks, I got the new Jordans, or look at me hitting the crossbar with this shot. Look at this, I was down in LA today and I bumped into Vin Diesel, right? Everyone, I don't know why he was the first person.
There's a picture of me, it's like, that's not Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel got very sick.
That's funny.
Man, Vin's lost a lot of weight. It's just me, like,
all those movies, he's never paid for gas. I wonder he's rich.
The Free and the Furious. That guy just blows around town. Free gas. Hey, they don't show that. They clip the guy coming out. Hey, you forgot to pay for the gas. Vin. Just blowing down the road.
Pin Diesel.
Yeah. I admire people. Bob Saget did this for me when I opened for him in shows in Edmonton years and years ago. The people who make you feel part of something when they don't have to, like the guy who has a status, for example, and all the power, but who goes like, no, everyone's gonna feel part of this. So I had to do this show at the River Cree Casino in Edmonton, and I'm opening for Bob, and the show ends, it was great. Show ends, and I hear Bob Saget go, he goes, where's Trent? We're gonna go for dinner, where's Trent? So I come out of my dressing room, and Bob's like, hey, he goes, myself, the promoter, we're all gonna go to a steakhouse and have dinner, it's on me, you gotta come, let's go. I go, oh, okay, sure, yeah. So I'm like, 10 years into stand-up. So I go out towards the front where the audience is. He goes, no, we go through the back door. So we go out the backstage door of this place. There's 2 armed guards there. They open the door. We get into a Suburban. There's a driver in there. We get in the back of that thing. Those 2 armed guards shut the door. They get in a different Suburban behind us, and they drive behind us just along the side of the casino. We drove 50 yards, stopped. They open the doors, we go in another back door. The steakhouse is in the casino. So now we're in this private steakhouse room, and I go to Bob, Bob, I drove here in a Dodge Neon. No one would have, I could have just met you around. Right. But he's like, no, you're with me, you open the show, you roll how I roll. And I never ever forgot that. I thought he didn't have to do that. He didn't even know me very well. But it was like, this is the treatment you're gonna get because you're with me, as opposed to punching down and he's just the opening act, who cares? You don't even have to join us for dinner, first of all. But I always
shared his experience with
you. Yeah. And I think you don't always have to do that. Because you would have played with Gretzky, right? What was because you got this guy who's called the Great One. Yeah. How do you navigate a dressing room and things when you have a guy who has that kind of status?
Okay, I was lucky. I played with Wayne for about 8 years. And here's an example of his generosity. So sharing experiences and so on. I would read about 2 or 3 newspapers every morning before I'd get ready for practice. So I'm in my spot, and eventually I get to the financial section, business section, and every once in a while there'd be Gretzky signs a new sponsorship deal with some company, right? And inevitably, a month later, we'd all show up at the dressing room one day, and there'd be that product in every guy's stall. Really? So it was really cool, That's nice. Yeah, wow. I won't say the names of the companies, but electronic companies or something. So we'd get their products in our stall, and you're carrying stuff home after. Right. What a gift! He didn't have to do that, right? Okay, we all have a moment, I guess, where we knew we had arrived or whatever. Yep. What are your memories? What's a moment, Tommy, where whether it was as a player or as a manager or...
The first ever game for the Cavalry, May 4th, 2019. I'd literally just turned 40 the day before. So I told my, because knowing my wife, she wanted to do this big party before and things like that. I said, honey, I know it's a big deal for my birthday, but can we just celebrate after the game? I said, that's something we've been working on for years. So when it came, it was brilliant because we had the great grandstand Spruce Meadows built, but we didn't have a roof in time. And on May 4th in 2019, it snowed. So there's some great images of it. We end up winning the game 2-1. Right. My brother got one of the first assists for the first goal, and just a great moment. There's a lovely picture after the game, walking with my wife across the pitch with the snow on our shoulder, and I just think that'll always live with me.
I didn't know I was going to end up playing a long time in the National Hockey League until it was my second year. And I remember this. There was a preseason game in Philadelphia in the Spectrum, and the Spectrum was a really hard building to play in. It was like the Broad Street to Bullies back then, right? And so I remember, I don't know how I got this feeling or why this occurred to me. I remember I had a brand new gray suit, and I walk off the bus about, 2.5 hours before the game. I don't turn right to go towards the dressing room. I go straight ahead, right through the Zamboni entrance. And, the building's empty, 2.5 hours before the game. I look around, kind of look down, notice my beautiful new gray suit, and I go, I belong here. Oh, I belong in this league. Nice. And it was just like a confidence thing, and it kind of like what you just said, the goosebumps. I remember, that moment forever. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of like the affirmation to myself, like, you can do this.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
How about you?
My moment would be, I think, joining 22 Minutes, because I went from being a stand-up comedian and doing some acting to now you're on a television show And when you're a stand-up comedian, the treatment's very different. Like you're almost in the way when you show up at venues, you know, like it's not pampering at all.
Right.
Whereas television is very much, here's your dressing room with your name and, you know, here's a fruit tray and all that stuff, which was all, like it's real, like we want you to feel special and like a part of something. But I'll never forget, I get announced as joining the cast, I think was announced in maybe April sometime. And so I wasn't gonna join the show till that September. So all summer I'm doing interviews about joining the cast and it's kind of surreal to me, but eventually it's like, well, now you gotta go do it, right? It'd be like being drafted, you're getting drafted. It's like, okay, well now it's training camp, here we go. And I remember the first Monday night, the audience is behind the door into the studio and there was a big bay door in the old CBC studio. And I'm standing outside that door with the rest of the cast, got my suit on, and I remember having a freak out moment where I was like, oh man, this is it. Like it all hit me in that moment where you almost step outside yourself and you're looking down on yourself. I was like, dude, haul it back in. You can't be up there. That's not gonna help you. But that was also a moment of realizing like, oh man, you've arrived now. Like you've had it. And so when that door opened up and they announced your name and you're gonna go behind that iconic desk for the first time, it was like, I was on a cloud. Someone gave me advice one time too. They said like, be very careful who you share your problems with. Because if you're in the worlds that we're in and you're sharing that with people who are not in these worlds, they don't seem like real problems. They're like, I work at a mill for 50 hours a week and your issue is you're not getting more screen time? Is that what you said there, bud? You know what I mean? So you have to make sure that the people who are hearing your, because we all go through struggles and if it's a problem to you, it's a problem, you know, like for you and where you are in your life. But if you share with people who are not in that world, they don't get it, right? And they're just, so I had to learn that lesson the hard way sometimes.
A number of years ago, about 8 years ago, I was dog tired. I'm traveling with the Flames and I had to go back every single Saturday for hockey night. And I think I was gone for like 23 days. And so it's a Friday night and this is how obnoxious I was that night. So I'm tired. I had staying at the Ritz-Carlton downtown Toronto. So there's that. I go to the hotel bar. I have 2 beers. I'm having a delicious burger in the hotel bar with some wine. And I take a picture of my burger and put it out on social media and say, man, I'm just tired. It's, 24 days on the road. I'm, all this stuff. Some guy sends back a reply, goes, I'll tell you a tough day, Kelly. My wife left me. I'm doing the kids' laundry. I'm cooking like mac and cheese or something. I think right. You've got a pretty good day going. And I was kind of like, yeah, you got me there.
That's not relative,
is it? It wasn't a tough day in his world.
It's true, but it's all, someone said that to me once too. If you think it's a problem, it's a problem. I always say, I'm sure Brad Pitt wants to do a movie that he's always wanted to do, and the studio's like, yeah, Brad, we just don't think you're right for that movie. Like that's Brad Pitt problems, right? As opposed to like someone's trying to keep the lights on or feed their kids. But it's all relative to wherever you are.
When's the last time he's gone for a walk just because he wants to go out or gone to the grocery store to pick some normal stuff?
Exactly. That'd be tough.
This was a thing I had to deal with. Like when I first started going to therapy, I realized that like I had a lot of anger when I was younger and I carried into adulthood. But the problem was, I don't know if you guys will relate to this, I used the anger as an athlete as fuel, right? So, but it was it burned very fast and it was explosive. And I look back now and go, I would have been a better player in university if I'd learned, had done some sports, mental fitness, all those things, and I didn't do it. And I learned later in life, like I have to find a positive place for that anger and to unpack it and realize why I have it. And when I was younger, that was like, so like I took the sport as if this is my identity, this is who I am. If you take this from me, I'm not as much of a person anymore. Like I have less worth if I don't win this game or play well. And that's why it was so heavy in a loss or a bad performance for me. It was like, oh man, I don't even want to go outside because we lost 2-0 or I gave the ball away or whatever it was. And I was like, you can't live like that. Like that's just too much weight to carry, especially for a young person and especially into adulthood.
Very similar. I think I never had the best ability as a player. Like, and I think I played 5 years in the pros, but never really top ability. But my understanding of the game, the knowing decision making, that was it. My compete level, I would compete with the best of them. But I think I overused the anger. Same thing for you. I needed that fuel. I was a defender, so I needed to upset my opponent because then that would provoke me. And I'm like, right, I've got you. Now it becomes a challenge. And I always look back and thought, I wonder why I went down that road. And then I look, well, I'm a junior. I'm the third of the Thomas Wheeldon. My granddad was Thomas Wheeldon. My dad is a player and a coach. And then I became it. So actually, from an early age, you're only in the team because your dad's a coach. So I used to hear that stuff. So for me, it probably lit that spark that I had to. And probably he did give me more chances than the average coach would do. But then I've had to, over the course of the time now, say, actually take over that journey. So it became my journey. And it's funny because I remember my dad, before he left Calgary, because he was coaching another academy when I was, someone from a league offices introduced my dad as this is Tommy Jr.'s dad. And
wow,
and my dad, Joey, said, oh, there you go. Now the passing of the torch. So my dad still coaches to this day. He's in his 60s and unbelievable energy, great. And that, but I think it was that passing of the torch, and I needed to prove something, that I was more than just his son. That I was my own person too. I think over the course of time, and probably why I've kept the junior next to my name, is it was my own identity. And then so when we had our firstborn son, I had that choice. Do you go the fourth Thomas? And then me and my wife Veronica said, no, let's give him his own identity. So we called him Jax Hogard Wheeldon. So we kept the middle name from his Scandinavian background on my wife's side. And our name there. So he's his own identity, he's his own player, and he does his own thing.
I love that.
I related to that.
Fiery.
I related it to it,
Yeah, that definitely me. Like, I played with hatred in my heart. Like, I hated every guy I played against for those 60 minutes. 10 seconds after the game's over, I'm good. But when I played, I liked that. I like that feeling.
I unpacked it even further, where I was like, because I was a black kid growing up in an all-white town, I was the center of attention regardless of if I wanted it or not. So developing a sense of humor, to shift the power dynamic in those situations was one thing I developed. And the second thing was, if I was a good athlete, you're going to stare at me, but you're going to stare at me for very different reasons. Because I'm the best player on the pitch now. Because I'll dictate this game, and if you don't mark me, I'm going to destroy you. So I took all that weight on. So then when a referee made a bad call, it wasn't just a bad call to me. It was like, you're taking something from me. You're taking my identity from me. It was that heavy. But I didn't realize that at the time. That's what I was going to ask you. Did you unpack that later, that you were like, oh, that anger and stuff that I had, you now, with distance from it, can realize that's what it was? Or did you realize as you were going through it at the time?
Yeah, I'm still unpacking it, to be honest, because in the first 5 years, you look at our playoff run, that we've had marginal calls that have gone against us in big moments from the officials. In one-goal games, in playoff games, my career and the career of the club has been affected by somebody's decision. So I, early on, I've used a lot of that, and now we came up with the same play to the whistle. So for a lot of our guys, let's never make it about anything else and take things into our own hands. So still unpacking it.
It is a weird thing because it becomes part of you, but also, this is the tricky thing about it, you get success with it. Like I was part of provincial teams, captain of the university team. So this formula that I've developed since childhood works.
It works.
It works to a certain degree. So you can't, I don't even question it, because why would I? It seems to work. And it's not till you get older and become an adult and you're like, oh man, there's got to be another way again. Like same thing, does everyone play with this much anger? Like I realized, I used to sit in the dressing room with guys and they were sitting there joking around, and I'm like looking like I'm gonna go through a wall. And this guy's over here reading a magazine. I'm like, does that guy not care?
God.
Does he not care?
Oh my God, so true. So I am furious with myself. I'm playing for the New York Islanders. I thought it was terrible that night. And we get on the team bus because we're playing in New Jersey the next day. And I'm furious, right? And one of my teammates, Steve Conroy, if he sees this, he'll see the humor in it or the logic in it. So he's a really good player. He's a good defenseman on our team. He gets on the bus and he looks like he's not even affected by the loss. And he sits about 2 rows in front of me, opens up his little travel bag, opens up a book and starts reading. And I think, you jerk, how can you be so okay? But the other part of my brain at the same time is going, I wish I was like that. I wish I could have just
healthy emotional regulation.
Just get on the bus and be okay. And get ready for tomorrow.
Leave it there and go on. I thought it was players didn't care. That's the way I used to take it. Like, he doesn't care as much as I do because he's not destroying the dressing room after the game. And it was like, and I'm sure those guys looked at me like, what is this guy's problem? Like, dude, we lost 2-1. Who cares? We play again tomorrow night. But at the time, I saw it as, I didn't have the vision to go, oh, there's other ways of going about your business.
Exactly.
It was this way to do it. And if you ain't doing it this way, then you clearly don't care as much as I do, right? It was a terrible mindset. Again, I don't know how people don't. Right. I don't know how people are making it out there without it. I really don't.
Right.
Because I've got the same thing you said earlier. I've walked into a therapist's office going, man, I got nothing, sun's shining, life's good, got a cup of coffee. I'm like, yeah, Trent, how's things? Good, you know? 10 minutes later, I don't know, man, I just, oh God, I remember when I was 6, you know? Just all this stuff starts coming out. I feel like as men sometimes too, like, I said this to my therapist, I don't know if people want to hear men's problems these days. Like, I feel like we have been given the keys to the world for such a long time, and a lot of people think, well, you drove the world into a ditch, throw the keys over here, we're going to take it from here. So that when sometimes we want to talk about our problems, I don't know if the world's welcoming enough to go like, yeah, your problems are still problems. Or, oh, really, Kelly, it's really tough for you with the Ritz-Carlton? Like that type of attitude. Like, but don't my problems matter? Like, aren't my problems still problems even though, you know, I don't know.
I do have a little bit of history with that sort of topic. I try not to be too heavy on social media. Like, I don't think I've mentioned anything since around January 14th, I think. Right. Because I kind of don't want to be that guy like, okay, every single time Kelly posts something, it's about that he's having a tough day or his last month hasn't been great. So I try and sort of gauge that, just give a glimpse of what's going on. But the beautiful thing I found from that community that I've sort of created with my social media is that everybody's so loving. Like, it's really cool. And so people really, they throw me all sorts of beautiful things, messages and everything on social media. So I think it is a good thing, and you can talk about it. Men can talk. I just don't think they need, from me anyways, they don't need to hear how I struggled for 5 years. They can understand, they can get a bit of a glimpse of what I'm going through. Like, it looks good on Saturday night and things are rosy, but they're really not at times. But that's a tough one, because you know, it's kind of like what you were saying about that. Okay, we get it. You lost some weight. We get it. You like being in your bathing suit now. You know, just knock it off. We get it. That's enough. So that's a hard one to gauge, though.
It is a hard one. I remember Brené Brown said once, she's like, not everyone deserves to hear your story, which I thought was an interesting quote, in that if you're going to be vulnerable and you're going to share, not everyone's ready to receive that, right? Or they're going to take it and use it against you, or mock it or make fun of it. And I always think about that with social media. Like, once you open that door and put that out there, that's now out there for anyone to have a go at. And they can take it and manipulate it, or take it that way. You know what your intention was when you shared it, but that doesn't mean the audience receives it that way.
I can tell you, I don't think I've had one negative comment or criticism about sharing mental health. Not one.
That's amazing.
Everybody's been amazing.
That is amazing.
And I mean, that's a lot of people that are reading that, right?
That's
Do you think people are more open since the pandemic? Because there's more people going, that was hard. You know, like, and now they're talking about actually being honest with, I've had bad days, I've had dark days, I struggled to get up in the morning. Do you find that?
I think it has. I think it started before the pandemic, though, because our youngest daughter has been sharing her story since 2013. And I've noticed that's 10 years now, I've noticed in like the last 5 or 7 years, the conversation has grown louder, and people are more interested in hearing the stories. That's just my feeling.
Interesting.
Like, it blows me away now that, you know, major oil and gas companies here in the province are inviting us to speak, and to a lot of men too, right? And they're, you know, men are interested, and men are going through stuff or things.
Well, that's kind of too why I want to do this way, because I feel like when you share your own story, people automatically want to mirror what you're given, right? But if you're just asking questions to someone, it's very different. But if you're vulnerable, I find it, most people find it hard not to be vulnerable back. You know, it's hard to just keep your wall up if someone else is putting their cards down on the table. And that's why I thought this was a great idea to do. I don't know who's paying for this, but I don't know.
Seabass.
Seabass, you got this one? Seabass has got this. Start the car.